Hello, my name's Carissa Lowe, and today I'm going to be talking about a knitting retreat, some spinning, some knitting, some crochet, and all kinds of fun fiber-related projects. So let's go ahead and jump in and get started. Welcome, fiber friends, to Sweet Mountain Crafts Fibercast number 18. It's been a minute since I've been here, so I'm excited to get back and share some fun things with you guys. I am excited to have any returning viewers back to watch me today, and thank you to any new viewers that are checking out this podcast for the first time. I hope you find something that you connect with here, and hope to see you again. I can be found online as Sweet Mountain Crafts on Instagram, Sweet Mountain Fiber on Instagram, and also Sweet Mountain Mohair. I can also be contacted at hello@sweetmountaincrafts.com, and you can find my hand-dyed yarns and other items for sale in my shop at sweetmountaincrafts.com. I figured I should do a little bit of a quick introduction for myself here, as this is my first podcast for 2023. And I've met a number of new people and just want to make sure that you all understand some of what it is that I do. So Sweet Mountain Crafts is an indie dyed yarn business that I started in 2019, which was just before, obviously, 2020 and pandemic craziness. So it was a lot of fun to get that business started at that time. And then I started selling my yarn both online and wholesale through some yarn shops in Wyoming as well as Montana. So that's kind of how Sweet Mountain Crafts began. I am a longtime knitter and crocheter. I am a homeschooling mom that has enjoyed many hours sitting with my kids while they're learning, and myself learning along in the process with knitting and crochet. Along with that, something that has been a new endeavor for me. For anyone that's watched my podcast, there's a number of you that will be aware of this, but in 2022, the big change in my life is that I stopped being a stay-at-home mom, and now I own a yarn store in Cody, Wyoming called Wyoming Yarn and Fiber. This has been a new endeavor for me, and I'm still trying to figure out a good balance between being a mom and a wife and an indie yarn dyer, and also running a new yarn store, or new to me yarn store rather. There was a previous yarn store in Cody called Grand Loop Yarn and Fiber, and it was an excellent store. The owner was retiring and looking to get out of her business, so I purchased her inventory in order to open up Wyoming Yarn and Fiber, and it has been quite the adventure, and I'm loving what I'm doing. I love working the yarn store, but as I said, it is finding a new balance with my life. So because of holidays and getting back from holidays and then retreat and all that went with that, and I'll talk about that some more in a bit, but then also coming back from retreat and having multiple birthdays. Half of our household's birthdays are in February. So getting back and having birthdays to celebrate, I have had so much on my plate that I was unable to get a podcast taken care of. So actually, to be quite honest, what I did do is I filmed for the podcast, but then I never got it edited. So a couple weeks ago, I took some time to try to film a podcast, didn't get it edited. I already feel like that feels a little bit outdated for me to just edit that and put it out. So I'm refilming a number of items today in order to get a podcast done. Another thing that I'm kind of contemplating is, for me doing a podcast, trying to get one out. I was doing it every other week before I owned the yarn store, and I was thinking that going to once a month was going to be easier for me because once a month allowed me not to have to worry about it as frequently. But what I'm finding is the challenge is that within 1 month's time, I kind of forget what I podcasted about previously, and I have a number of projects that I've completed. So it almost feels overwhelming to me to do a full month in a single podcast. Well, here I am actually covering almost 2 months worth of projects and activities. And so I'm going to try to keep it concise and somewhat short. I know that knowing me, it probably won't be super short, but try to keep it to the bare minimum here and just get you guys kind of updated on where I'm at. And then from there, I may very possibly try to work towards doing a podcast every other week again. We'll see if I feel like I have the ability to keep up with that. But my thought is that by doing it every other week, maybe my podcast would be shorter and therefore not so overwhelming for me to get all the content in. As well as I'm an editor for my podcast. I don't enjoy putting up an unedited podcast because I can say some really dumb stuff sometimes and I just feel like that needs cut, or sometimes I get a little long-winded. And so I find that editing my podcast is important to me. And in doing so, that takes extra hours, obviously. So I need to be mindful of what I can accomplish with my time. But with all that said, let's go ahead and jump into a little bit about what has happened since I last podcasted. So my last podcast was actually before Christmas, and for Christmas we got the opportunity to go down and spend Christmas. Our whole family went down to Arizona to spend Christmas with our son who lives in Phoenix, and it was such a good time to get everyone together. We enjoyed having that family time together. It'd been it had been since August, I suppose, since I had seen my son that lives in Arizona, and he's only 19, so he's just left home, and it can feel a little bit distant at times. So we thoroughly enjoyed getting together. Our son, who lives in Bozeman, also flew down for the holiday and spent that time with us. So it was such a thrill to my mama heart to be able to spend that time with my family, with my kids. And yes, it was just a good time. After Christmas, I got back home and of course, kind of picking up where I'd left off with the shop, had a lot of stuff to do with work, and finishing and working on end of year books and just getting started into a new year. Lots of things for me to learn with that. I am not, my background is not retail or business. I'm actually an educator by trade, so it's a lot for me. It's mentally a lot to try and keep in mind all the things that need to be done to run a small retail business. So that took a lot of me in January, as well as preparing for the Knitting McPurley Retreat in North Carolina. So at the end of January, I was able to attend and teach and vend at the Knitting McPurley Retreat, and I so enjoyed that. It was definitely a highlight for me. There was a lot of pressure just to get ready with everything, and again, I'll be sharing some of that here soon, what I did to prepare for that. But the retreat itself was such a blessing to me and such an enjoyment to get to visit with and meet so many people in person. A number of people who I had known online already got to meet face to face and give hugs, and I loved that. And then got to meet a bunch of new people as well. So it was just such a treat for me to get to take that little bit of pause out of life and go to that retreat. As I suggested, upon my return from the retreat, we immediately had birthdays. So I was getting ready for my daughter turned 16. Well, first my oldest, my son, turned 21, which was exciting. He was back at school in Bozeman, so we didn't get to spend his 21st birthday with him, but we eventually did get up and spend some time with him. But he turned 21. My daughter, my youngest, turned 16. And so with that, she also got to the excitement of taking and passing her driving test. And then my husband also had his birthday just last week. So we just had a slew of birthdays. There's 6 in our household, 6 in our family, I should say, 4 kids and my husband and myself. And so getting all 3 of those birthdays done, February just always feels a little bit crunched with birthdays and Valentine's Day and trying to celebrate and enjoy my family and, take time out to just dote on them a little bit. So that was a lot to do. And then actually we just got back just yesterday from a ski trip. We went up to Bozeman to spend time with our son, like I said, to be able to celebrate his birthday with him in person. and also kind of as a celebration of the other 2 birthdays, my daughter's and my husband's. We went skiing up at Bridger Bowl outside of Bozeman and had a beautiful day on the mountain. It was a little windy and chilly at first, but it was so much fun. And I love to ski. I love winter. I love snow. I love the outdoors in the wintertime. But my favorite way to enjoy it is definitely downhill skiing. And sadly, last year, because of the way the snow was, and if there was a good snow day, it seemed to hit on a day that I wasn't available to ski. It just didn't happen for us last year. I didn't ski at all last year, which was the first time in like probably about 10 or 11 years that I had not skied at all for the season. So to be able to get out on the mountain this past weekend was so good. It was just so good. It was exciting and thrilling, and I loved being out. So that's been a little bit of life. Really quick, we'll go ahead and talk about, first of all, what am I wearing? And then we'll jump into some of the things that I've finished in the last couple months. So what am I wearing? This is the Drifter Shawl by Tammy Gore. There is an option of doing the shawl with 2 or 3 colors in it. I opted for the 2-color version. The multicolored skein here is dyed by Molly of Molly Klein Design. This is one of her sweet tea yarns. This was, I think, called Ribbon Candy and was part of an advent that I purchased from her a couple years ago. And then the coral color in this, I honestly am not positive. I think that may have come from Molly Klein as well, but I'm not positive. I don't have those notes with me at the moment, but I have talked about this shawl on past episode if you want to look back and find out more about it. It's a fun, bright colored shawl to wear in the kind of drab, dreary winter months. So I had fun pulling this out to throw on for today's podcast. Woohoo! I made it. I'm going to talk here not only about some of my own makes, but also some makes that I've received from others using some of my Sweet Mountain Crafts yarns. So first of all, let's talk about a make I did do myself. This is the Twisted Mock Neck sweater by Donna Marquardt. It is from her Saturday Sweaters pattern book, and I did this in Juniper Moon Farms Stargazer brushed in the Osiris colorway. I wore this to the retreat to teach and just enjoyed having it. It's a very warm, very comfortable sweater. It's a very just simple, kind of an everyday sweater design. Certainly one that will get lots of wear from me. Next up, I'm going to be popping on a photo here of the Flax Light sweater. This is a Tin Can Knits pattern that Rachel of Nini Knits knit for me. This is a sample that I'll be putting up at the Wyoming Yarn and Fiber shop just to be able to show off some of my hand-dyed yarns in a finished object. So Rachel did a beautiful job knitting this. This is in the Erica colorway, and this color is based off of Erica Saint's favorite color. She is a podcaster with Rose Opal Knits, and she and I had collaborated, she and Daphne and myself, I should say, had collaborated on some yarn for their podcast, and one of the accent colors was this orange in honor of Erica, and she loved this color and asked for more in sweaters quantity, so I made sure to dye some more up also for my shop. The next sweater, this is the Tweety Junior. This is a Beata Jezik of Hedgehog Fibers pattern, and this was knit by Nancy of Nitty Bitty Sisters. Her Instagram is NancyDrew77, and this was a sweater that she also used some of my own hand dyed. This is the Cool Breeze colorway and on my Mount DK. Again, this is a yarn that I had dyed and had in my shop. I am out of this yarn at the moment, but I'll be dyeing more as I prepare to get this yarn, or this sample rather, hung on my wall at my brick and mortar shop. I'll also be dyeing up more to be putting in my online store and making that available. This knit up beautifully, and I love how the color looks as a finished object on this finished object. And I just want to say a huge thank you to Rachel and Nancy for getting these sample knits done for me. The next finish I have were a couple Scandi Bears. This is a design by French Lavender Home. Deborah has done these really cute little critters that she's made. She's got lots of different animals that she does, but this is her Scandi Bear. And I knit this after being inspired by Tracy of Grizzly Knits on her podcast. She had made these Scandi Bears and I just thought they were so cute. And then I also took her suggestion of knitting them in the round because it made it go so much faster to knit these in the round, even though the pattern suggests that they can be knit flat. And I think Deborah designed this pattern with the thought that it could be easily done with a beginning knitter, even a youth beginning knitter, because it is a very simple pattern that could be done flat, like I said, and then stitched up the back. Or like I say, I did mine in the round, and these were done. Rose Opal Knits, Erica and Daphne are running a make-along right now called the Cozy Kids Make-Along, and I did these and submitted them for that. But they were also gifts for, and I don't have them anymore because one was sent to a cousin in California who just had his first baby, and then the other was sent to, or given to rather, someone at my husband's work. So these were some really quick, very fun knits to do as baby gifts. The next baby gift that I'm going to focus on that I did was the Puerparium Cardigan. This is a frequently done little cute, adorable little sweater that is designed by Kelsey Brooks of Pika Pika Patterns. Or actually, the pattern that I have says, sorry, not Kelsey Brooks, Kelsey Brooker of Pika Pika Designs. Although I noticed that her last name online is different, so I don't know if this was designed previous to a name change, or I'm not positive of the story there, but it is an adorable, very simple raglan style cardigan. This is designed, this size, this is the newborn size. This is the beginning pattern that she designed, although she has since designed other sizes of this sweater from what I understand. But it's just a super simple, very sweet little cardigan. So it buttons up the side with the idea that for a parent, especially a new parent, they can just open it up, lay their baby on it, and then have the buttons off to the side so that if the baby wants to be on their tummy, the buttons aren't in the way. So it's just so sweet. I love how this turned out. And along with this, this is a gift again that I'm giving. A neighbor of mine is having her, let's see, this would be her third grandchild born and her first granddaughter. So this is going to her to share with her new little grandbaby. And along with it, I have, oh, and I should say, this was knit with Universal Yarn Adore, which is an alpaca, sorry, not alpaca, an acrylic wool blend in the powder colorway. So being that it's an acrylic wool blend, it is machine washable, which is always great for a new parent. And since I chose a very light color, I know that it is something that will need to be washed probably fairly regularly. So that was fun to do. And then along with it, like I say, I'm also giving this blanket, and I will insert a photo here. This blanket is knit using Lion Brand's Mandala yarn, and it's just an acrylic yarn that is really fun and just happy and bright. Just a simple car seat blanket, or a quick throw it on the ground kind of floor blanket type. It's not super large, but it's fun, and it goes with this white sweater so beautifully that I think it makes a fun gift set. The next thing that I finished and did lots of was some art yarn spinning. So in preparations for the Knitting with Pearly Retreat, I spun up 180 ounces of art yarn, which, if you think of a single skein of yarn being 3.5 ounces, 180 ounces of art yarn is a significant amount, to say the least. So here I'm going to insert some pictures and some video of I hand dyed fiber. Most of this is superwash merino fiber that I hand dyed, and then once it was dyed, then I carded it along with some nylon sparkly strands in order to add a little bit of sparkle. And so I hand dyed, carded using my Brother Drum carder, and then spun all this art yarn. And I enjoyed the process. It was a bit of a marathon to get through all of it. I can certainly say that because I use a Ashford Country Spinner 2 to do my art yarn, which is a double treadle spinning wheel, I was spending a lot of time treadling. And there were some nights that by the time I got done spinning, my hips and the tops of my thighs were definitely tender and sore. I put a lot of time in treadling. I don't know from an exercise standpoint what kind of miles or what I can attribute that to, because I am sitting. It's just my feet are mostly moving, but I definitely probably was working on some muscle buildup at that time doing all that spinning. It was a lot of fun for me to spin all this, and here I'm going to insert a photo of a pile of the yarn. Once I got to the Knitting McPearly Retreat at Lake Junaluska, I poured this out on my bed in order to get it into the kits to be able to share with the participants in the class. It was 5 different colorways, so I had 20 kits. No, excuse me. I had 5 different colorways. I had 18 kits per colorway in order to teach the class. And so there was and I'm not going to have a picture of each of these individual kits, but there was in the kits, there were different types of yarns that were commercial yarns, not my own. Some of them were hand dyed by me, but most of them were commercial yarns. And different textures. So most of the yarns were bulky or super bulky weight yarns, but different textures. I had some boucle in there. I also included some hand-dyed silks, and those were torn into strips by my incredible assistant, Sharon, who did so much work to try and help get me ready for this retreat. Thank you, Sharon. She tore all these strips, 2-inch strips of silk down for the kits. And then she also helped to start measuring out the other yarns that I put with the art yarn. So each kit was a coordinated set, and the colors blended together. And so it was a lot of fun, but a lot of work putting together 90 kits for the class that I taught. The other thing, and I should also recognize my employee that helps me at the shop, Venla, did a ton of work helping me put these together as well. And so without these 2 wonderful ladies, I would not have been able to get as far as I did on my own to prepare for the retreat, but they did a fabulous job helping me out. I also did some weavings of my own in order to get ready for the retreat. I'll try to insert a little bit here about some of the weavings that I did. This one got really wild and crazy. It is art yarn in there that I had hand spun. So the really wild colored yarns, the coiled yarn here, is all hand spun art yarn. And that was kind of my base, and then I added in some other items, some silk, some scrap yarns that I had laying around, some other hand spun from another local hand spinner, and then just some very fun things. I added a little embellishments, a couple embellishments here. This one is just a little pendant or charm that I had purchased online, and then this is actually, it says Crazy Yarn Lady. That's actually a new item that will be coming to the shop very soon. Once I get a chance to photograph and get those in the shop, I'll have those available. But these are just little button plaques, I guess you could call them, that go on finished pieces or on project bags or whatever you can think of that you'd want to add a little plaque to. So that was a fun weaving to get done. This was a sample for me to use at the retreat for the class that I taught. And again, I'll be talking about that more in a moment. The other finished object that I have hanging here is another little sample. This is just a 5-inch ring. The last one was an 8-inch ring. This is a 5-inch macrame ring here that I used for this piece. And again, it has a lot of my art yarn in it. So all this coil spun that you're seeing, all the green around the edges, and then there's some hanging down here, that coil spun is art yarn that I had hand dyed and then spun up. This project again is one that I had used as a sample for the class that I taught, and you can see I also put another of the, oh, my yarn is coming off on the side there, but I put another of those little plaques, time to unwind, in the center here, just as a fun little decoration. This now decorates my shop and is hanging on the wall just opposite me typically, but it was so fun. I love putting these together because I love pulling all the parts together. I usually start with my art yarn, something that either I've spun or maybe I've purchased or found from someone else, and then I pull in all the other pieces that coordinate. So there's actually another yarn here. This chunky yarn that you kind of see spiraled here is also some of my own hand dyed yarn. That's a super bulky that I like to dye in my shop. It's called Peak. And yeah, anyway, another fun finished project. You'll notice on one of those videos that as I'm talking about the weaving that I did, I also had button plaques that I included on my weavings. Those button plaques are great for on weavings or on bags. I don't have an example here. I was looking to see if I had a sample here, but I don't right beside me. But those will be available in my shop soon. They're just a fun little plaque to add to, like I say, a project bag or to an art weaving. And just something that my husband and I came up with on our own. These are our own designs, something that we put together for the retreat, and also something that will be available in my shop very soon. All right, there may have been some other finished objects in the last couple months, but if there were, I've either forgotten them or they've been passed along already, or they're just not right now on my radar. So we're gonna move on to works in progress. So some things that I've been working on. I put together a Make 9 board that Amy of Noble Character Crafts runs this Make 9 make along every year. And for 2023, I kind of hesitated on putting together a board because I know that I'm doing a lot of sample knitting and sample projects for my shop. But I decided, you know what, let's just put it together. It just makes sense. So I am on my Make 9 board. I have specifically put together a number of items that are things that will be samples for my shop, but I also have some other things in my Make 9 plans that are not that. So let's do a quick look at my Make 9 plans, and then from there I'll show you some of the works in progress that I've already started. So first off, we have the Grand Prismatic Cowl. This is a design by Grand Loop Designs. If you didn't notice, there is a similarity there to the yarn shop that I told you about that closed recently in Cody. The designer here is Amy Nemeth, and she designed a number of patterns for her yarn store that were associated with this region. So I live right outside the east entrance of Yellowstone, and Amy had very specifically designed some patterns for Yellowstone National Park. And this is her cowl, her Grand Prismatic Cowl. I intend to knit this up with some of my own hand-dyed yarns. My plan is to put together some kits with my own hand-dyed yarns using her pattern in order to be ready for the summer tourist season, with the idea of having these as grab-and-go kits for anyone that's interested in making up this great pattern by Amy. Next up, I have the Beach Bum Tank by Lady J Crochet. This great pattern is just a cute, fun, crocheted cotton tank, and this is going to be using, again, some yarns that I have in my shop that I want to work up. The next pattern is Filamentous by, again, Amy of Grand Loop Designs, and Filamentous is, again, designed off of some inspiration from Yellowstone, and I think I am going to be hand dyeing something for this as well. I'm not positive, but I kind of have some ideas in mind, probably using a Wyoming yarn from Mountain Meadow Wool, or Mountain Meadow Mill in Buffalo, Wyoming. I use their yarn for a number of my bases and probably will do the same for this shawl. This is a crocheted, or rather scarf. This is a crocheted scarf, again, by Amy of Grand Loop Designs. Next up is the Anna Vest by Karen Templar. This is a well-knit pattern, and I was finding that at the shop, especially, I was wanting to have some more vests options to wear to work, so I decided I really like the look of the Anna Vest, and I'll be working that up. I don't have the yarn picked out for that just yet, but that'll be something I do hopefully in the next few months for myself. Next up is the Yellowstone hat by Nancy Bates Designs. Again, this goes without saying that being that I live near Yellowstone, Nancy has designed a beautiful book of the national parks with hat or beanie patterns for each of the national parks in the United States. And her book is beautiful, it's well done, and her Yellowstone hat is a fun one that I want to, again, kit up some of my own hand-dyed yarn so that if anyone is interested in knitting her pattern, I have some kits ready to go. So again, I'll be doing her pattern, but with my yarns. Next is the Frothy Pullover by Katrina Frost. This is a pattern that I have been working on for some time. My goal is to get this done this year. This is for my daughter. I had started this project, frogged it, and now I've restarted it, and I'm well on my way to getting it done. I'm, again, knitting this in my own hand-dyed yarns, and I'll show you that in just a moment. Next up is the Metanoia Shawl. This is a pattern by Devon of Knitting McPurley Designs, and she's done, this is a pattern I purchased from Devon a number of years ago, and it's just finally time to get that going. So again, I'll show you that in my works in progress. Next is the Kira sweater by Isabel Kramer. This is a pattern that sadly has been on my Make 9 board. Probably, I would say this might be the third or fourth time that I've put this on my Make 9 board. But this year, it's gonna happen. 2023 is the year for the Kira sweater. I love this sweater. I have yarn already in my stash for it, so hopefully I'll get that done this year. And then last but not least, I have the Dearly Loved Mitts by Hannah Miller. Hannah is a yarn person in Casper, Wyoming, who she and her mom used to own Windblown Fiber. Hannah now has her own, she still sells yarn as Windblown Fiber online, but she also is the girl who wears wool socks and has a business where she will hand crank yarn socks for individuals, but they live in Casper, Wyoming, and this is a pattern by her that I look forward to knitting up. All right, so those are my Make 9 plans. Let's look at where I'm at on getting some of them done. First of all, the Frothy Pullover is a design by Katrina Frost. It is in the Coffee House Knits book. And, oops, wrong pattern. Let's get to the right one here. This is the pattern by Katrina. And when I found this pattern, I thought right away it would make a great design for my daughter. And I knew immediately the yarn that I wanted to use. My yarn looks nothing like the original in the book, but let me show you. Here is what I have accomplished on my daughter's sweater so far. So this yarn is my slope sock base. So it's a 2-ply fingering weight yarn. This colorway is called the Lush Woodbine. It is a very fun, has rusts and corals and a bit of a hint of fuchsia in there, just all kinds of different warm tones. And it is going rather well. You can see I'm all the way up. I've already split for the sleeves and started, I'm working the back, I believe, first, or the front. I can't remember if I'm working the front or the back right now, but I think they're very similar to each other. And so it's a bottom up sweater. It just has some simple ribbing at the bottom, and then it has this great textured pattern across the whole sweater. So it's going really well. The problem right now is I ran out of yarn, and I kind of knew that was going to happen. So I actually have to hand dye some more yarn in order to have enough to finish the sweater. So that's a little nerve-wracking because it's been a couple years ago since I dyed this yarn. And so getting some more dyed and getting it to match well is a little nerve-wracking, but we'll see. Let's see. I have this much of one skein left. I have a mini skein left, and then I have my gauge swatch left. So there's no way that I have enough to finish the sweater as intended, and I knew that, so now I need to get busy and get some more dyed for myself. On here you can see I have my 2023 stitch marker. This is a stitch marker made, or a progress keeper made by 3 by the Sea Designs, and that's just like helping keep track of where I am so that I am motivated to keep moving along. I think I probably progressed this when I filmed my previous, what I thought was going to be my podcast, but then didn't get it out. So yeah, anyway, we'll see where I get from here on the next podcast. This sweater is being held in this fun bag by Susan of Delightful Works. This is a bag that she made in collaboration with me for Valentine's Day of 2022. I had a lot of fun pairing a yarn with this bag, and if I have a picture, I'll try to pop that in there. It was a fun set that sold out last year. So a great bag, another great drawstring bag by Susan. My next work in progress that is also on my Make 9 board is the Metanoia shawl by Knitting Pearly. Devin had designed this, as I said earlier. Devin designed this great shawl. I loved the name of it. I loved the colors that she chose. I just really liked the shape of the shawl, and I decided that I was going to knit it a while back, but I've had this pattern for a while and just hadn't taken the time to cast it on. Well, at the Knitty McPearly Retreat, we received a, actually, maybe I should go back first. Before the Knitty McPearly Retreat, Lynn of Chicken Lady Fiber Arts was having a sale on some of her yarns, and I hadn't bought any Chicken Lady Fiber Arts yarn for a while, so when she was having a special sale, I decided I should go ahead and splurge a little bit and buy some of her fun yarns. So I bought one mini sock set. This is on her 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon base. There were 6 skeins in this mini set called Disco Lemonade. And so I will try to show those off in some sort of order. It is a fade set, which she did a great job on. I really love these colors. So she has, and I don't know if she had individual names for them, but she has, let's see, like I say, I don't know if I'm going to get them in the order that they were in the kit, but there are 6 skeins of blues with purples, a little bit of pink, and then it goes to a yellow. So there's the 6 colors together. They look a little sloppy right now because they've been thrown into a bag in preparation for this shawl that I'm working on. And I loved these colors. They're fun colors. My favorite, I think, if I were to pick a favorite, is probably this. Well, I don't know. There's a couple in there, but I really love this one. So Lynn did a great job with this set, and I decided that I was going to use it for Metanoia. Now, Metanoia is actually supposed to be a 3-color and like full skein shawl pattern. So I'm going to have to kind of adjust the pattern a little bit in order to accommodate the yarns that I'm using for it. But I thought that these would work great. However, since there's only 6 20-gram skeins here, that's not going to be nearly enough for the shawl. So another yarn that I bought from Lynn is this beautiful silk and mohair blend. This is her Reverend Blue Jeans colorway. And I thought it would be a really fun thing on the Metanoia shawl to do the lace section in this silk and mohair. We'll see how that goes. It's going to be a bit of an experiment, but I'm thinking that my plan was to put these all together. Let's see if I can hold this up again. My plan was to put these mini skeins with this silk mohair, and I didn't have an exact idea until then. I was starting to prepare for the retreat, and I was looking through some of my patterns, and I'm like, this might be a really fun combo. So we're gonna see what it does. I don't know, this is a bit of an experiment. But the other fun thing that happened is at the retreat, there were goodie bags, and I'll show more of the goodie bags here in a little bit, but there were goodie bags that, some swag bags that Devin put together. And in the swag bags were some goodies from various vendors. And Lynn had sent a mini skein of a color that she dyed specifically for the retreat called Lake Junaluska. And that's this color here. This was just a 10-gram mini that she had put in that kit, but it goes so well with the ones that I had already purchased from her that I decided that I was going to throw my Lake Junaluska from Lynn in this shawl. So here I've started the Metanoia shawl with the Lake Junaluska color. So again, I'm kind of having to play with the pattern a little bit with the design to make it accommodate the yarns that I have, but I'm having a lot of fun putting this together. And again, that Lake Junaluska with the Reverend Blue Jeans, it just goes so well together. So that's my next work in progress. This is being held in Bags by Awesome Granny bag. This is just a super generous bag. The shawl doesn't take up nearly the entirety of this bag, but for my recent trip to go skiing, what I did is I used this as my big bag, threw my other small projects in with it, and this was the bag that I took with me. So it's a great oversized bag. I use it mostly for sweaters, but it right now is housing that. Up, I'm going to show off this a fun project being held in a bag by I Heart You. This is a fun Christmassy bag. I usually tend to use this at Christmas time, but it is definitely a Stranger Things look to the bag as well. And I started these socks over Christmas break, so they are in this bag until I get done with them. And they are just a very simple vanilla sock that I'm knitting. I have, this was a sock blank that I had dyed just for fun. My daughter and I decided to buy some sock blanks, which are some pre-knit fabrics that are just a natural color. And then you paint them kind of in a fun way, unravel them, and then knit them. So this was a sock blank that I had dyed and I'm now knitting up. And it's kind of interesting the way the colors are playing out. I mean, that's one thing that by doing the dyeing that way, you really have no idea what the colors are going to look like. But you can see I've gotten past my heel. I always do socks 2 at a time, toe up, and on a Chiaogu size US 1, 2.25 millimeter needle. And so at this point I've done my toes. I've come up to, I do a short row toe, German short row toe, and a German short row heel, and I'm on the leg of the sock. So again, you can see I have a stitch marker on here. It happens to be a little Christmas tree. I don't recall where I got this stitch marker. It might have been in, now that I think about it, I think this might have been in the Clark and L Advent from a couple years ago. I don't remember now. Anyway, it's just a little Christmas tree, a progress keeper. And I'll move that up and advance that onto my socks to see how far I get next time. Although hopefully by next podcast, I'd like to think that I have these socks done because I'm ready to be done with them. They're just some basic socks that are going to get thrown into my own sock drawer. All right, the next work in progress I have is in this great bag. This is a fun, just very versatile little tote made by noknits.com here in the US. And I have this fun shawl that I've started. Isn't this yarn pretty? This is the Merrimack shawl. It's a lace pattern where you do repeated lace sections with garter stitch in between. I'm not sure how much, this is kind of a dark yarn for this pattern, so I'm not sure how much those lace sections are showing up, but I think it'll be really pretty when it's all blocked out. This is a pattern by Valerie Hobbs. Let's see, I can show, yep, I can show this entire page. This is the front page of the pattern. And the story on this pattern is that at my yarn shop, I have a group that meets together for knitting and crocheting on Friday afternoons. And there's a number of ladies that join us, which is so much fun. There have been up to 14 ladies that come to that group, and I so enjoy them. They're just a treat for me to see every week and visit with and be inspired by. And anyway, the story is that they decided, there were a number of them that wanted to knit the shawl together. So we are doing this as a shop knit along for Wyoming Yarn and Fiber. If anyone on here should happen to want to join us, we're going to do this through until the end of March. So I know we're already a good way into the knit along, but if you happen to want to join us, just know that there is information. You can find information on my Wyoming Yarn Facebook group, and that is Y Yarn on Facebook. So just WY, like the abbreviation for Wyoming, and yarn. So anyway, but this is being knit, my Mary Mac shawl that I'm working on. I love how this goes with the bag so well. Is being knit using this beautiful yarn that was gifted to me. Isn't that just such a pretty yarn? And this is done by Songbird Yarn and Fibers. Let's see, I believe this was something that my mom bought and gave me from a trip she took. I'm not positive now. It's been in stash for a little bit, but this is a sock base, 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, and it is a superwash merino. So, and the color is based off the European Starling. So here's a little picture here, and you can see where that color inspiration comes from. So I'm having fun with that. As I said, it's a repeat lace, like where you repeat lace sections. And so it does take a little bit more focus. It's not horrible, and you do get those garter ridge pauses in between to just quick knock out some rows and garter ridge. But it's been a really fun project so far, and I'm enjoying the progress I've made on it. We'll see if I get it done by the end of March or not, but it's very fun. This work in progress is going to be a long-term work in progress. This is not something I plan to do quickly. I work on it when I feel like it. But I had for Christmas, and I kind of talked about this on a previous podcast, in July, I had purchased the Anna Knitter Christmas in July Advent calendar. I did not open it in July. Instead, I opened it in December during Advent. And in that, it was a bunch of Opal Minis. So here's a cute bag. This is from Lisa of Knit, Pray, Share. I won this in one of her giveaways, and it's just a cute little bag, but it's currently holding all my Opal Minis. So an Opal Mini is just a fun little 10-gram skein of Opal yarn, Opal sock yarn. This is a fingering weight yarn, and there are so many different colors in here. Isn't that fun? Little bag, whoops, as I throw some in the floor. But anyway, what I've been doing with those is I am taking and crocheting squares, granny squares. So I have a number of bags here in order to accommodate this project. So this is my bag of minis before I've done anything with them. This is the bag that I use for holding my project, because I grab this really quick and throw it in if I'm headed out the door somewhere and I just want a quick project to work on. This is totally me, driving people crazy, one goat at a time. Anyway, I found this cute bag at one of our farm supply stores, and I loved it. So anyway, I love this little bag. On here is a stitch marker made by Susan's sister. Susan from Delightful Works, her sister made these, and I thought it matched the bag really well, and I love it as a zipper pull. It's just pretty, and it makes me happy to see that on there. But inside this bag is my crochet hook that I'm using, which I'm using a 3mm crochet hook, and then the yarns that I'm currently working with. So here's the last little tidbit of one of the skeins, and it will be worked up into a square here soon. Here's another one that I've broken into and probably done at least one square with that. I get, let's see, what is it? I get 9 and a little bit, 9 squares plus a little bit out of one of these 10-gram skeins. So the square pattern itself, let's see, the pattern is, I'm gonna forget the name of the pattern. I'll put that here. I talk about that quite a bit on my last podcast, but I will put the name of the pattern here. And it's just a fun little squares pattern that makes this cute little like 2-inch square, I guess. I haven't properly measured these, but they're about that size. Isn't that a pretty one with the way that the center all worked out? I am not intentionally trying to make the colors land in any certain way. So like you can see right here, this is how Opal Yarns is self-striping yarn. So the way the color works up is just however it works up on its own. I don't try to control the colors at all. But in this bag, so this is the big bag that's holding all the projects. This is a canvas bag by some friends of mine here locally, Slope Style, that makes this canvas bag. And in the bottom, you can see a bunch of squares. Let's see, they're all gonna fall everywhere, but you can maybe see some of the squares down in there. So I've gotten a number of squares done. I don't know how many at this point. Maybe I'll count those up and put a total on the screen here, but you can see these guys still have tails to weave in. So then the next bag that I have is this bag. This is just a simple muslin bag, nothing fancy. And in here are my squares that I've woven tails in on. So here's a finished square without the tails hanging out. And you can see these two probably came from the same skein, but just the way the colors work up are different. This is a different skein. Aren't they so fun? So I love, love, love these little squares. I like to crochet little things. I don't know why, it's just soothing to me. I have also worked on a hexagon blanket that is a bunch of mini hexagons, and I will continue working on that project as well. Those are just with sock scraps. But this opal blanket, I'm loving these mini granny squares. And my plan in the end is to put them all together into one large blanket. We'll see how that goes, because I know that will take me some time yet. As you saw, there's lots of skeins of yarn, there's lots of squares that need work done, but this is just a fun, as I feel like it, work in progress. So like I say, I'll try to count up my current squares and see how many I've completed. I do have a tape measure here, so let's really quick just see what one of these little squares works up to be. So with my, isn't this a cute tape measure? Coggy of a high fiber diet gifted me that in a swap that we did. And yes, those squares are turning out to be almost spot on 2 inches. So very fun. So right around 5 centimeters. But yes, I'm looking forward to having a whole blanket of all these great squares put together, probably with a neutral in between. I'm thinking either I'm going to make neutral squares to go with the colored squares and then put them together in a patchwork manner, kind of like a postage stamp quilt would look, or I'm going to do a crochet as you go and put them together in rows with a neutral color, combining them. I'm not decided on that yet, but we shall see. In the meantime, it's just fun, and it's a fun project, and it's, like I say, ongoing and always available for a quick grab if I need something to take with me out the door. All right, so now I'm going to take just a moment to talk about the Knitting McPurley retreat that happened at the end of January, the last weekend in January, and all the fun that I had. It was such a fabulous time. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Devin did a fabulous job of putting it on. She thought through a number of things and just did an amazing job as the host of this event, especially since she took on this endeavor by herself. It was very impressive to me what she did and what she accomplished for all of us. She brought together a lovely group of ladies, which I know that when you put on an event like this, you really have no control over who's going to be there and exactly how the event's going to run, even though you put a lot of time and thought and energy into it. But the ladies that came together for this were just such a joy. It was such a pleasure for me to see and meet all these wonderful women, to interact with them. There wasn't an unhappy individual in the whole group. Everyone was just smiling and enjoying themselves. It was such a treat, and I feel truly blessed to have been able to go and join everybody for this. At the retreat itself, I did kind of a crazy little fun thing for myself. I took along with me, I had my phone obviously, so for pictures I was taking selfies and photos of groups of ladies, and asking permission for them to do so. But then I also took with me my little Fujifilm Instax printer. And so at the retreat itself, as I was taking photos, I was printing them off and putting them into this little notebook. This is just a notebook by, let's see if it says who it's even by. I don't know. Let's see. Oh, it's a markings notebook. Here, you can see this in the back here. This is just a little notebook that I picked up at Walgreens or wherever. Just a little lined notebook. It's not anything fancy that way. But what I did is I tore out some of the pages to make room to accommodate all the photos and the thickness. But I had taken stickers with me, and I took the photos and then printed them off and put them in this notebook as a little keepsake for myself from the retreat. So there is a picture of me with Devin. And then what I would do is, just like a yearbook, I would have people sign at the bottom and either leave a little note or be sure to leave their Instagram name or whatever information they wanted to share with me. So throughout this book, I have some pictures from the retreat itself. I have stickers. This one says, "Any day spent knitting is a good day." And then I have pictures with individuals from the retreat. So it's just so much fun. Here's Cheryl Beckerich from Wise All Knits. I'm so thankful I did this for myself, because not only is it evidence that I got to see these people in person, which is just a good reminder, but it's also a good way for some of the ladies that I didn't know as well. Just a neat way for me to be able to find people online and to reconnect with people in another manner. I just had so much fun. So this was so fun. Here's Cheryl. Shawl Blazik that had with a sweater that she had knit using my advent calendar from 2021. So it was fun for her to bring that and show me in person. I also have a picture, let's see if I can find it really quick, with Susan of Delightful Works wearing a shawl that she made from my, here. You don't see the shawl very much, but that's okay. Here's me and Susan. She's wearing a shawl knit with my 2022 Advent or Christmas cash kit. I don't do Advent calendars. I don't know. I'm so accustomed to saying Advent calendar for everyone else, but I don't properly do an Advent calendar. I do a Christmas kit. And Susan had purchased my kit from last year and worked up the shawl. So it was so fun to see. Anyway, oh man, these are special memories for sure. And I love having these photos with all these lovely ladies and having these memories. But an encouragement for any one of you, if you're ever going to retreat like this was a great way. It's kind of a great way of journaling as I go, because I knew that once I got back, I'd have so much to do, that to try to record everything that I'd done or people that I'd met, there'd just be no way to do that once I got home. So this was my little answer to that. At the retreat itself, we did, there were 5 volunteer-led classes. So we had a class with Cheryl on brioche. Cheryl Beckerich, again, of Wise All Knits, did a class on brioche. And Pinkava did a class on intarsia. Both of these are techniques that I had learned before, but it was so fun to see these ladies and see them in action as they taught their classes. And then there was a class by Holly Armstrong of Mystery Mouse. and she did a class on altering patterns, which was really a neat. She did such a great job. She used the Flax sweater by Tin Can Knits to look at how you can change that sweater so many different ways. She had great ideas, and I had a lot of fun in Holly's class. And then Devin taught a class on pattern design, which again, I've done pattern design, but I have not endeavored to do a sweater yet. And mostly because I'm overwhelmed a little bit by the grading. I love math. It's just the idea of taking the time to make sure that the pattern works for all different sizes. We'll see. Maybe in the next year or so, maybe I can push myself that direction. But Devin did a fabulous job of walking through how to design a pattern from start to finish. And then I did a class on freeform art weaving. So as I had already talked about my art yarn, those were to put together in kits for this art weaving class. So I'm going to throw some images on here of some art weaving that some of the participants in the class did. It was such a fun class for me to teach. I love to teach, first of all. As I said, my background is in education, so teaching is just something I thoroughly enjoy anyway. And then teaching people about something I love, yarn and fiber, it's just, I cannot say enough about how much fun I had teaching this class. So I taught them how to do a circle weaving. In the kits, they had an 8-inch macrame circle or macrame ring, and I taught them how to warp that, and then on that warp how to work their art yarn in order to create a really fun design. Now, freeform art weaving can go all over the place. People can do whatever they want, and in this class of very avid knitters, there were a lot of very, very skilled knitters in this group. Many of them had never done anything like this with yarn, so it was such a joy for me to take something that I love to do and introduce it to a number of ladies that had never even tried anything like this. The feedback that I got was fabulous. I had one or two at least at the retreat that itself contact me and or come up to me and say, I didn't think I'd like this class. I didn't know that I was going to enjoy this. I didn't even know if I was going to attend. I'm so thankful I did, because what I learned is something that I will definitely be doing more of. And as a teacher, that, even now it kind of gives me goosebumps, because that's what we want as teachers, is to have our students take and not only want to finish the project that they've been taught to do, but to take it beyond and to continue doing more of. And I just, that was so exciting for me. So I'm still, as you can tell, I'm still operating off of some of that enjoyment and enthusiasm, and will hopefully get to continue teaching classes like that. I do teach, obviously, in my own yarn store here in Cody. So I get an opportunity to teach often, but I look forward to teaching especially this freeform art weaving more in the days ahead, whether it's through my own shop or at various other venues. But it was such a joy for me. So even though it was a volunteer class, I came away feeling so, I don't know if you want to call it reimbursed, but well paid in the pleasure that I had in teaching it and the reactions that I got from so many. So that was truly a fun time for me. And again, Devin, thank you so much for your incredible work that you put into this event. Thank you to everyone that contributed. Thank you to those that purchased from me at my booth, where I brought a bunch of my product to sell. Thank you guys for just being such an encouragement and support for Sweet Mountain Crafts. It really, truly was a blessing to me. Now, this next section is going to be a little unique. This is not normally how I go through my acquisitions, but I had so much here that I'm going to put in a segment of video that's going to walk you through some of my current stash buildup. And with that, just my main reason for doing this is not to gloat about what I've put into my own stash, but rather to show off and share some of the beautiful things and some of the amazing things that other artists, other designers are putting out, whether it's in yarn or pattern designs. I just want to be able to share these with you guys, or even bags. So here, enjoy this little clip from me. I've received so many things or purchased so many things in the last little bit that my apparent motto for the beginning of this year is not to stash down, but instead to bulk up the stash. So anyway, I'm going to do my acquisitions part of my podcast today by showing you guys all my added to stash this way rather than trying to show it on camera with me holding up each thing, because I want to give a moment of recognition for all these great yarns and so many fun things that I've acquired. So first of all, this Sudoku Delight. This is a needlework pattern by Kathy Rees of Needle Delights. And I saw this in Arizona at the Old Town Needlework shop in Scottsdale. And they had a sample of this done up, and I thought it was so pretty. They had done their sample, or the sample they had in the shop was done with Christmas colors, but I love this. And actually, I really like the blues and greens. I haven't decided yet what I'm gonna do for mine, but I really like that idea. It's kind of like a 9-patch quilt, or Sudoku, as it suggests, with the nine squares in each little section there. All right, next up I have some cornbread and honey. So this yarn is from Tanya. She is an indie dyer as well, and she had put out just kind of a plea for like the struggles that she's going through of having seen yarn sales kind of drop off. And I had received some of her yarn from a giveaway with the Nitty Bitty Sisters, but I had never purchased any of hers. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to support a fellow dyer and buy some of her yarn. And isn't this pretty? Let's see this one. She calls Comfy and Cozy Holiday 2022. So I just thought it was a really pretty colorway. So I got a couple of those. Next up, I was in touch with Annalena from Anna Knitter, and she had requested some Ghirardelli chocolates because they can't get them there. They can get some Ghirardelli, but not the Ghirardelli bark that she wanted. So I said, well, let's do a swap. And so, or rather I said, let me send you some. And she's like, well, can I send you something in return? So she sent me this fun package, and it is full of all kinds of goodies. She is a Opal yarn distributor, so she made sure to add some Opal yarn, which I love. Here's Sweet Dreams. And then this one, Abo or AB. Oh no, I guess it's a C. ABC. Maybe? Anyway, it's a fun one anyway. And then a couple minis, which I'm working on hexagons, or not hexagon, granny square minis, which I didn't film for this podcast. I'll be sure to show those on the next one. But I love the minis. And then she threw in just a little note. Here's her business card, Anna Knitter. So she has a great podcast and it's fun to watch if you guys don't watch her. And then she sent a little bag of goodies. So, oops, just some fun treats from Germany. So that was super fun to receive. It was fun to do that swap with her. I did not expect her to send me something, but it was fun to get something in return. Then next up I have my Yarnable box. So I have signed up for Yarnable recently. I just wanted to see what Cheryl of Hypnotic Yarn was doing for her boxes and her subscription. So it's been really fun to get. I got the December colorway. I believe I shared that on the last podcast, but this was her January. So this is Party Like It's 2023. I subscribed for a DK weight just because I already have so many fingering weight yarns that I like working with DK for crochet as well as for putting yarns together for sweaters. But then the other things that came in her box or in her subscription for January was these bath bombs, which smell amazing. And then she put in a little fancy sprinkles, which is just something that you would add to a drink just to make it kind of extra fun. And then 3 by the Sea, and you can see my stitch marker's gone because this is the stitch marker I showed is on my daughter's sweater right now. So it was the 2023 stitch marker. So that was a fun yarnable package to receive. Next up, oh, I forgot to look up the name. I might put it here, but there was a D-stash happening on Instagram, and I am a sucker for D-stashes. I really am, because I hate to see amazing yarn, especially indie dyed yarns, sell for such low prices. And also, it's just a fun way to add to stash without spending, you know, as much money as buying brand new. So I went ahead and purchased this from the D-stash. This was some Montana crochet, which Ashley does a fabulous job dyeing, and I've purchased and worked with her yarns before. She's actually from Great Falls, Montana, which is where I was born. So it's kind of fun to feel like I have a bit of a connection to Ashley. At some point, I hope to meet her. I was supposed to meet up with her at one point, and then it just didn't happen. Trips got canceled and stuff because of weather, but maybe someday I'll get a chance to meet Ashley in person. Anyway, these yarns were gorgeous, and I love the colors. I love the tweed. I'd worked with, actually, surprisingly, the previous Montana crochet yarns that I have were also tweed. I have a crocheted cardigan out of Montana crochet yarns in the tweed, but this one is a DK weight. Again, a great weight to work with for crochet. So the colors, let's see, we can look at all the colors here. We've got Sangria, and this one was Bramble, I believe. Yep. And then this one is Burnished. And then this one's gorgeous. It's so many colors. Sweater Weather. Isn't that pretty? That one's going to kind of tie all the colors together, in my opinion. And then this one is Gourd. So my plans for this is, of course, a sweater that is absolutely a sweater's quantity. And I already think I have the sweater picked out. I think I'm going to do the Confetti DK. It's a pullover pattern. And so I think I'm going to crochet that for myself with this yarn. Next up, another thing from that D-stash was actually not these guys, but these are Daisy Knit 1 Crochet 2. This is a linen silk hemp blend, which is just a very unique blend of yarn. And this colorway is Goldenrod. But this is actually a yarn that came in a knit crate at one point, and I know that because I have the aqua ones there that came in a knit crate to me. So I guess I should say I don't know that this person received them in a knit crate, but I know that I got mine that way. Anyway, she was destashing these yellows, and they're such a bright, happy yellow that I couldn't turn them down. And since, like I said, I already knew that I had these in stash, these will make a great, probably woven project. I'm not totally sure just yet. I'll probably pair like a neutral of some sort with it if I do a weaving, but I think it'd make a really fun table runner or placemats or something along those lines. So I went ahead and purchased those. Again, D-stash prices, couldn't turn them down. Along with those yellows, this one was thrown in. It looks to be a 2-ply fingering weight yarn, although I have no details on it. So it's just a fun, someone was playing with hand dyeing or something. I'm not sure the details, like I say, but it's a happy, fun yarn. So it'll get thrown into a project somewhere, I'm sure. All right, next up, I have all my Knitting with Peony Retreat acquisitions and what I received during the time that I was in North Carolina. So first of all, Devin did these great patches on these fun little bags that she handed out. This was her swag bag, and it was such a fun design that she came up with. Look at all the details on that. Didn't she do a great job? She's got yarn in the clouds and the sun, and then she's got knit stitches in the hills and the water. She did such a good job. It was so fun. Very creative, and I love that. But inside, I just have some of my leftovers from the retreat itself, some of my notes and whatever we had from the different classes. We had notes that we received to go with the classes that were being taught. So that's a little bit of what's in there. Let's see, I should pull out too that Devin did include also this sticker. So just like her her patch, there we go, just like the patch, she also made a sticker for us that we can put on water bottles or whatever we want. So fun. Anyway, again, very creative, Devin. That was so much fun. All right, so the rest of the things that were in the swag bag, let's start there. So she had, well, let's see. Okay, I'm gonna dump out the stuff that's in here first, and we'll talk about this first. Whoop, as I lose things off the counter. All right, so many great things. There were a number of things in the swag bag. One of them I'd already mentioned came from Lynn of Chicken Lady Fiber Arts. She had put in that mini skein that I showed you I'm going to put in my Metanoia shawl. But then Devin also included some wool wash and then some lip balm. And then Delightful Works had this great stitch marker, just a little stone from Susan. And then also from Devin was the Nitty McPurley tin with stitch markers inside. Let's see if I can do this one-handed. So just some stitch markers in there. So a great little fun tin. And then these are some of the business cards that were in there. So Chicken Lady Fiber Arts, and then Ray from Longleaf Bags had a business card with a coupon code. So here's her design, or her logo. And then, yeah, Lynn also had a code for some discounts in their shops. Oh, here's another, Devin also put this onto a coaster for us. So this is, whoops. This is a coaster or a Frisbee, I guess. I don't know, whichever way you want to consider it. Anyway, but again, just so cute. Actually, I think that I'll use this more as a decoration. It'll probably go on a bulletin board just because it's super cute. All right, and then amazing thing that Devin did for us. She included these leather holders with a beautiful pair of scissors. So this is all by Jennifer Yun. And look at this, isn't this so fun? The Devin scissors. These guys are by Kelmscott Designs, the scissors are, and then the pouch was by Jennifer Yun. So, and I love the color of this pouch. So fun to receive that. All right, the other things that were on my bag here, let's see, I have this pine cone that came from, oh, I don't know where the card went for that. Anyway, the jewelry. Oh man, if I can find the details, I'll put that on there. And then this one, this is actually the Lake Junaluska logo that the hotel uses, or the conference center. And this was made by, don't mind my super dry hands. It's wintertime here and I've been dying a lot, so my hands are very dry. But this was made by a friend, Yolanda, made that for myself. And I believe she gave Devin one as well. Just a fun little stitch marker and memorabilia for a reminder of the retreat. Yolanda was a super huge help to me because for my class that I was teaching, I made up kits, as I said, and I wanted to send those kits ahead of time. So Yolanda received those kits for me. She lives right near Lake Junaluska. So she received those kits for me so that I could then have them available at the retreat. So thank you so much, Yolanda. I really appreciate you. All right, next up, this is one of Ray's bags, so long leaf bags. This is one of hers. Super cute and definitely reflective of the farm that I have, so I love that. And then inside I have some goodies. So Paige of Zeoli Yarns was there, And I could not turn down, oh, look at this. Oh man, am I finding something that's gonna go together here? I don't know. But anyway, Paige is Zeola Yarns, and she is a small batch hand dyer that works with a lot of cotton. She's actually, I believe she's from Florida, I think she said. And so, you know, wool yarn just isn't as practical for her. So she tends to dye a lot of cotton, and she does a beautiful job of it. I've dyed a little bit of cotton, and it's a whole different process than dyeing wool. So I was highly impressed with Paige's ability to get some beautiful fun colors, even getting some speckling on her cotton yarns. So well done, Paige. But here I bought 3. These are all her Anita base, which is a fingering weight. It's 75% cotton with 25% linen, and the colors that I bought were Sunbathing and Catch a Wave. So yes, and actually both of these are Catch a Wave, just 2 different versions, are very similar but slightly different with the way they took up the color. Oh, my heaters have turned on, so I apologize for the background noise. But yes, I had planned to do a weaving with these guys too. So I don't know if I want to mix fibers that much. We'll see, because this has the silk and hemp in it, and it does not have cotton in that stuff. So I might keep these separate. Next up, I have in this bag some stitch markers. These were made by Delightful Works, Susan's sister actually. And I just love the colors. I'm such a sucker for the teals and aquas. Just so pretty. So that was a fun set of stitch markers. And that, let's see, no, there's one more thing. Oh, also from Longleaf Bags. Oh, oops, this is for my daughter. This is for her birthday. These donuts are point protectors or needle stoppers, whichever way you call them. And they're just super cute. My daughter loves donuts, so these are for her birthday. Forgot those were in there. All right, that's all of that bag, but look how nice that is inside. She does a multi-compartment pocket with smaller compartments there for hooks or needles, and a little bit larger pockets there. All right, next up, also from Yolanda, she brought me some local alpaca. This is from the Sug Plantation. And it is a fun alpaca blend. Let's see, it's just a natural colored skein, and I will have fun playing with that. So again, that is local to where our retreat was at. So thank you again. Yo-yos, lots of fun. Oh, and I forgot to mention that also in the swag bag that came from Devon, she had dyed up a specialty colorway for the retreat. So this is her, let's turn this the right way, 2023 Nitty McPurley Cozy Mountain Lake Retreat exclusive colorway, Aurora. And this is Warsaw worsted weight. So I loved the colors, just very fun, very neat. And also in my swag bag, I also received this great, fun hand-dyed yarn done by Charlotte, her daughter. Isn't it so cute? This is a fingering weight, one of a kind, but I love it. So fun. Thank you, Charlotte. If you guys watch this podcast at all, thank you. I love, love, love this one. All right, and then because I had this from Devon, I wanted to pair some more Warsaw with it. So I purchased not 1, not 2, but 3 of Devon's beautiful colorways to go with the skein that she gave us. So my hopes are to put these all together into a sweater. It will be some sort of a colorwork sweater is my guess, but I'm not quite decided on what that's going to be just yet. But she does a beautiful job of dyeing, and I just want to show off her colors. So here's Bosque, like the pear, she says. Black Forest Cake, which is my favorite. Oh my goodness, look at those colors. Just beautiful. Fantine, which again is just beautiful. And I think with this one that tones it down just a little bit, that Retreat color, I feel like these are just gonna be so much fun all together. So that'll be kind of my lighter color, lighter shade, and then these bright pops of color with my base. I may end up buying more of the Black Forest from her to make that my main body color, but like I said, I'm not fully decided on a pattern just yet, so that will be coming in time. All right, next up, Holly, I've mentioned a couple times, of Mystery Mouse yarn was there, and she had some beautiful, especially Murder, She Wrote themed sets. So this is Grady Fletcher. And then this mini skein set is called Murder, She Wrote. And I bought these to all go together. So I'm gonna put the minis together, all those minis together with that full skein. I love how this full skein goes with this one, ties that one in really nicely. And then these others are just good, fun colors to be able to pair with these, because I think all together, I mean, the two minis that come with the full were not represented. Those colors weren't represented in the mini skein set, but when you put them all together, they just look really fun. So, yes, and again, I don't have a pattern specifically in mind, but I know that they will be together. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do shawl or sweater with these guys. They're all fingering weight, so we'll see. All right, next up, I have my Delightful Works bag. She brought these bucket bags, which I'm so in love with. Love, love. Look how cute with the gingham on the bottom. And then, yeah, this one was kind of a one-off of hers that I was really excited about because it was unique. And it has sewing on it, which I enjoy sewing too. So I love the sewing machine. I love the retro look. I just love it. It's just such a cute bag. Very, very fun. So yeah, and actually when it's full of yarn, it just makes me happy, which just a moment ago it was. But this is from Susan of Delightful Works. It was such a joy to meet Susan. I've worked with Susan so many different times now, and she's just been a huge supporter of mine and an encourager for me. And I loved being able to meet her in person, and then also to be able to buy a bag from her in person. So next up, I have my, I should show this too really quick. This is something that Susan gifted me with. This is pineapple fiber. I've never worked with that. I'm guessing that it is, being a cellulose fiber, it's going to be very flyaway, but it's also got a very nice sheen to it. So I'm looking forward to probably throwing that into an art yarn spin at some point. So thank you, Susan. All right, the next up, we went to Black Mountain Yarn Shop. And I didn't go too crazy there. There were some yarns that are not necessarily my favorites, I guess. Some beautiful yarns, but not necessarily anything that I was looking for. And I had really wanted to support the vendors at the retreat. So I'd already spent a bit of money, as you can tell. So I decided to just find something unique that I wanted to get at Black Mountain. So I bought some Jill Draper Makes stuff. This is a great woolly, natural, like non-superwash wool yarn. And I'm planning to pair it with some of my own, some of the colors that I've dyed on a non-superwash. And it was just a really beautiful, rich color, which I know is hard to get on non-superwash. To get these really deep tones can be really difficult. You have to take it up to a higher heat for a longer period of time. So I value the effort that was put in to make this really beautiful, rich blue. From that shop, I also bought some swag, bought a little pin, and then a stitch marker. So yeah, just evidence that I was there. Apparently Black Mountain is a well-known yarn shop. I did not know that. I'm from the West, so I don't pay attention to a lot of the East Coast yarn shops, but it seems to get a lot of attention online and a lot of attention from designers and such. But it was fun to visit. I always enjoy going to another yarn shop, so that was very fun. All right, the last thing that I had, oh, there was one more thing I got from Black Mountain. I got some Idlewild buttons, and I'm missing one. I think it's just, it fell off in one of my bags, so I'll have to find it later. But I love these. They're ceramic or clay button, and they just were really fun. So I think they would be really neat on a sweater, and since they come as a set of 6, they will be probably for a cardigan. But yes, very fun. All right, and then the last thing that I have to share is actually some things that there was a table that was set up at the retreat for people to bring yarn that they no longer wanted, whether it was scrap yarn or yarns that were from stash that they just didn't want. So I picked up a couple things from there. First of all, I picked up some more opal. Can you tell I kind of have a thing for opal right now? I don't know. Annalena, you have done something to definitely bring a lot of attention to opal yarn for me. But isn't this pretty, this black dragon? I'm looking forward to knitting that into a pair of socks. Trying to decide if I'm gonna make those socks for someone else or myself. But anyway, very fun. And then the other thing that I got, and this is gonna maybe not show really great just laid on the counter here, but there was this beautiful sweater. Or it's a cardigan again. It's a little bit of a kind of a shorter cut on me, like it kind of hits definitely above the, like more at my natural waist, I guess, above the hips. But it was a beautiful sweater. Look at the colors in this yarn. I love that, all that heathering in there. And someone said that the sleeves just seemed extra long, and so it didn't fit a lot of the ladies that maybe had looked at it or considered it. But I loved it. I threw it on and I was like, oh yes, this is beautiful. So I'm not sure who brought this. If someone watches this podcast and knows who brought this to the retreat, be sure to share with me, because it's so much fun and it's lovely. It's well done, well constructed, and I look forward to wearing it. So thank you, whoever that was. All right, that's all I have for now. Any other yarns that you're seeing are just some of my Dye Studio yarns waiting to get twisted up. So that is my acquisitions for the moment. Thanks. So now I'm going to wrap up this podcast. Thank you to anyone that has stuck through and watched to the bitter end here. I will be doing a giveaway on my next podcast. I have enough here that I decided I'm not going to add it to this podcast, but on my next upcoming podcast, be sure to check it out, because I will be doing a giveaway since I've just hit a 500 subscriber count. So be sure to join me on my next podcast. In the meantime, thank you for enduring this podcast with me. I know it's a long one. There's a lot that I've had to cover in order to catch up from the last 2 months, but I'm so glad that you stuck it out with me, and I hope you're doing well, and I look forward to connecting with you either in person or online again soon. Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye. Okay, well, let's try that again.